You don't have to be good. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be talented, but you have to be persistent. And there's no way that you can succeed in business if you're not persistent, because it's going to get hard. By definition, it will be hard. If it's not hard, I guarantee you, you're doing the wrong thing. The easy way is basically, I guess colloquially, you might be looking for a shortcut.
Welcome to another episode of From Startup to Wunderbrand with Nicholas Kuhne. So Bert Terhart has a pretty diverse background, one that blends exploration, science, entrepreneurship, and adventures in unique ways. A fellow of the Royal Canadian Geographic Society and explorer in residence for the British Columbia Historical Society, and the CEO of Leadbrain.ai. But he really loves the ocean, basically. And Bert has logged over 50,000 miles of solo sailing adventures, including a non-stop circumnavigation of the globe and a 7,800-kilometer paddling journey across Canada from the Pacific to the Atlantic. So, I mean, this is somebody who can keep himself occupied, obviously, for a long time, and we're very happy to have him with us. Welcome, Bert.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I'm really looking forward to this conversation, I'm sure. Hopefully we won't disappear into a rabbit hole that no one's interested in, because that can happen. But no, this is going to be great.
And I was a bit disappointed coming onto the line because I was expecting, a very deep Dutch accent when I saw the name. But here he is with a very passable Canadian accent.
Yeah.
So you have done some activities that most people would be terrified of. They wouldn't wake up in the morning thinking, let me go around a block, let alone go around the world. And I guess it takes a different type of mindset to get up in the morning and motivate yourself, number one, to get into the kayak or whatever floating thing you were in. And then when you're out there for that long, also to keep yourself motivated. And I guess there are a couple of parallels with business. Once you're on that raft, there's just the ocean around you, sharks and nasty things trying to kill you and eat you the whole time. Maybe give us some of your broad ideas in terms of some lessons you've learned on your solo adventures that we can tie into our business life or just life in general, if that is broad enough for you.
Sure. I think actually the lessons I learned in life before I decided to go off and do these crazy things, I learned those first and I applied them to some of these extraordinary things that I've done. So, I mean, the sailing is, we've only covered one part of it. The same with the paddling, only one part of it. I mean, earlier I spent 10 years in the military as a member of the Canadian Special Service Force. That in and of itself is adventure enough for most people. And it's every bit as hard as some of the other things I've done. So my life was well informed before I started off on some of the things that you've touched on. And basically the lesson going forward from all those things is you don't have to be good. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be talented, but you have to be persistent. And there's no way that you can succeed in business if you're not persistent, because it's going to get hard. By definition, it will be hard. If it's not hard, I guarantee you, you're doing the wrong thing. The easy way is basically, I guess colloquially, you might be looking for a shortcut. There are no shortcuts. Full stop. There aren't any. I mean, everybody looks for them because they're nice, but they sound good, but they never do any good. So unless you're willing to persist in whatever you do, the chances of you making it are zero. I mean, unequivocally zero. And there isn't anything that you can look at, whether it's a professional athlete or whether it's someone who succeeded wildly in business or climbed Mount Everest. It doesn't matter. They've all persisted when things got hard and when things weren't necessarily fun, because it ain't always going to be fun. The fun might come later, but it doesn't necessarily come in the moment.
I love that you brought up persistence, and also that you don't have to be a staggering genius or physical specimen when you're starting out. And we've seen a lot of people, for example, when you're at school, perhaps, who were the top of the class, and just became bums later in life because they just, took everything came quite easy to them. And I've said the same thing to my young son, who's currently doing very well at everything that he does. Everything he puts his hand to, he's small. He's 12, but everything he does the best. But I'm saying, you can't, be complacent at just because it comes easy to you, because it's not going to be like that when you get older, and you've got to be persistent. Whereas his little brother is things take a little bit longer for him, but he's quite persistent. And when he falls down over and over again, at the end of the day, he still gets to go skiing and ice skating and has a great time after it. So that persistence aspect is very important.
Yeah, I think it simply cannot be overstated. And you don't have to look very hard or very far to see that it's the foundation of every success you might possibly name. From learning how to walk to learning how to skate, to, right up to the end. I mean, think how persistent Elon Musk has to be to blow up rockets in full view of the entire world and clap and go, wasn't that a fantastic success? Look, we just vaporized a rocket.
Exactly. Talking about Elon Musk, we can go to AI, I guess, and your business that you've been leading for the last couple of years, which is called Leadbrain.ai.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to, before we go to too much detail onto Leadbrain.ai, I just want to mention to folks that you are quite an early adopter in the SEO space. So in about 2007, starting out with your SEO business. And those are the early days, I guess, of SEO.
Yeah.
And now you are a leader in the AI space as well when we look at Leadbrain. So maybe talk to me a little bit about your journey with NextGen SEO and all the similarities that you're now seeing in Leadbrain AI and why your business model is to change.
Okay, so I guess we can take one step farther back from NextGen SEO. Before that, I had another software company, and I've always been in the healthcare niche. My whole adult life, other than being in the Army or as an academic, has been focused in a particular niche, which is, I think, valuable, but in and of itself. But I was writing software for doctors, differential diagnostic software, and patient management software, clinic management software, before doctors had computers in their offices. So we would build the whole thing for them, including the software and the hardware, and then we'd land in their office with our staff, our team, and set the whole thing up and teach everybody how to do it. So this whole idea of using technology to simplify in the case of healthcare, the patient acquisition, the patient compliance, the patient loyalty, if you will, aspect of that business, we were doing that, like I said, before there was computers in doctors' offices, which to some of your listeners might seem, well, I guess dinosaurs must have been roaming the earth at that time. Maybe we were too busy inside the office to look outside as the Brontosaurus, went by the window. So Fred Flintstone style. So that led, and as soon as Google came out, and Google speaks at the time, the two guys who started Google were academics. I was an academic. We realized right away what they were doing because it still is not much more than the way research papers are actually peer reviewed and then graded as to whether they're worthy or not. And that resonated with us immediately because at the same time, again, we were helping doctors establish an IT footprint and working primarily in the United States. The healthcare industry is very competitive, which means that you have to actually land your business in front of your patient or your customers where they are. And that led us into realizing or sort of leveraging search engine optimization, including AdSense. So we were one of the early adopters of AdSense at the time. Some of my programming partners, we had automated pages that were fooling Google's search bot into thinking that we had 1 million pages on a site and we had AdSense on all those pages and we were making a killing. Until, of course, Google finds out what you're doing and they put the brakes on it. Which is another way of saying there are no shortcuts because you will be found out and then 1 minute your entire revenue stream just sort of goes up in literal smoke. So that led to NextGen SEO, which is another company which again was focused on small business, primarily in the healthcare industry. Again, primarily getting them visibility on the place where most of their new patients were landing. And that has changed dramatically over that whole period of time because now when anybody asks, where do I spend my money? They go online and ask that question. Who do I give my money to? And if you're not in that conversation when that customer or that patient is asking that question, then you simply don't get that business. It's an unfair playing field in that regard because you can be very, very good at what you do, but have zero visibility or footprint on the web. And if that happens, then for small business especially, it's like a salmon swimming upstream. It's not a zero-sum game. There's no way to win. And my father immigrated to Canada. He was a small businessman. He was a land surveyor in a very difficult place to live in Canada. And the question he was always asking him was, is this customer going to be my last customer? Or the customer that's walking in the door, will there be no one after him or her? Leadbrain is, what I decided to do with Leadbrain was address that question, particularly for small business. And it's a very simple concept. Again, your ideal customer is asking, where do I spend my money? And if that business that you're working with doesn't land in that conversation online, then they'll never see that customer. They'll never see that new customer. And it also applies to existing customers, because people will, they'll have an experience with a practitioner or a business, and then they'll either read a review or go to a review. I mean, there isn't anything, I think, that people purchase online now where reviews aren't part of the equation. So one way is, again, your footprint to ensure that your customers are loyal to you and not to your competitors is to ensure that you're showing up in that regard as well. So that's, in a nutshell, that might be the 50,000 foot view of what we're trying to accomplish with Leadbrain.ai.
So the focus, obviously, I like is that your focus is on the healthcare providers or healthcare providers. So that's your niche area that you can add tremendous value in. But just clarify for me, from NextGen SEO to Leadbrain.ai, I was just missing that link there between how the business is different to NextGen SEO. Is it the same business, or is this a completely new business?
Well, I would say, firstly, I would say that it's not a completely new strategy, but we're using AI to basically automate everything that we were doing before on our end of the spectrum. But we're also using AI to help small business automate everything that they're doing on their end when it comes to customer acquisition and retention. So we're using AI to respond to Facebook, to respond to Instagram, to respond to Twitter. We're using it to respond to phone calls on web chatbots and everything that a small business would need to do to ensure that a customer who's inquiring about their service or product gets answered immediately in the most thorough way possible. And it's 24/7 around, as you well know. So if I need a plumber, I'll call that plumber at 3 o'clock in the morning when the toilet's flooding. And if no one answers the phone, I just keep dialing, or I keep looking until someone actually picks up the phone or answers in whatever way I'm reaching out. And that's an awful large ask for someone who has maybe somewhere, say, 10 employees, to be working 24/7, to actually pay someone somehow to answer to be on all these different channels that customers could be reaching out to them on. Like, that's a huge ask. I mean, no one joins, like a doctor didn't become a doctor so he could become an IT specialist. The guy who's fixing, repaving your driveway is not there to become a search engine guy. He's not there because he wants to be a social media guy. He's there because he likes hard landscaping. He likes moving great big rocks into great big places, and he's really good at it, using some great big piece of machinery, which is as far removed from Instagram as you can possibly get. So there's a big disconnect between technology and service in that regard. So that's where we fill the gap. And it used to be an incredible pile of work, and there was no way to basically combine all these different communication channels under one roof. But you can do that with AI, and there's lots of different platforms that have come to that. HubSpot comes to mind. That was one of the first, but there's far more sophisticated ways of doing it, than HubSpot, and using. Simplistically, you might think of Zapier to connect all these different elements, all these different ways that you have to engage, reach out, and manage customers can all be automated. And we're using AI to do that. We use finely tuned AI as an example, to write custom letters to every single one of our patients. There are patients who are vegan. There are patients who are primarily concerned with comorbidities, or there's patients who are concerned with the interactions with other drugs. There's patients who have PhDs, and there's patients who don't. And every one of those patients, you can have a different conversation with them about the same thing, but you need to be speaking their language. So it's simply, we're using AI, I guess, again, from a 50,000 foot view, is to meet ideal customers where they are, as opposed to them having to come to us. So as opposed to one letter that goes out, this form letter that goes out every time a patient gets a prognosis from a practitioner, and we're just using one language to do it, which is the doctor's language, which primarily nobody understands. Is that we use we know what the patient's concerns are, because we have their chart. We know what they like. We have, again, finely tuned AI that we use on a patient to patient basis, almost, so that we can have a conversation with the patient that the patient understands. So we're meeting that patient where they are. We're meeting, if it's the case of hard landscaping, which is a niche I love as well for Leadbrain, then we're having a conversation with their ideal customer where they are. And we're also using AI to have a conversation where we as technologists meet our clients where they are. So I don't speak AI or tech to those guys. I speak hard landscaping to those guys. So AI allows you to meet both your customers and your clients where they are, as opposed to where you are, which is usually entirely wrong.
So this is not the basic AI that people are sort of engaging with every day now. So your chat GPTs, please write me a letter to my boss to motivate why I shouldn't be fired. This is integrations, like you said, Zapier, using HubSpot, which I love, and all of the donkey work that goes into creating all of the
Yeah.
email sequences. And that's not one email sequence, that's a multitude of those.
Hmm.
Tone of voice, and obviously bringing in all of your different data sets and that. And there's obviously issues regarding data security and avenues like that you need to be aware of. So I think people need to realize that you're not just running this through ChatGPT
No,
to run generic letters.
no.
And that you're a specialist in this space. You've been in the healthcare industry, tech space for years and years and years. So you're bringing that to yourself. And I see on your website, integrate and automate customer acquisition and retention,
Hmm.
automate follow-up sequences on all channels and platforms. These things everyone can actually go and do themselves.
Hmm.
But good luck to them trying to do it.
Yeah, well, that's a really good point, because to be successful in the agency space where Leadbrain is, you have to give everything away, and everyone goes, okay, that's fantastic. It sounds really hard. Can you do it for me? So we give everything away. People say, well, we need a done for you solution, which is, I mean, people have to understand in some way, shape, or well, people have to trust you in some way, shape, or form. And how do you do that if they never meet you? If it's just online, if you have this very impersonal, very sterile sort of interaction with them, you don't get to do that in a personal setting. No one really wants to do that anymore. No one has the time for it, to be frank, I suppose. But you can do that by literally showing them what you actually know and what you can actually do. So that's case studies, that's providing content, that's doing things like podcasts. There's all kinds of ways that you can foster trust with potentially a new client. And in the same way, when you want to enhance customer loyalty or patient compliance, as I would in the healthcare space, you have to constantly show that you're an authority in that field. So if you're going to a dentist, and you've had fillings with that dentist and teeth whitening and all those sorts of things, and suddenly you need to have an implant because you've got to cut a couple of teeth knocked out playing hockey, then you want to know that guy, that dentist, him or her, can actually do that work. So suddenly all their authority, that you have goodwill built up with that practitioner, but not necessarily authority, because you don't actually know if they do tooth implants. Maybe they do. Maybe you're the first guy that they're actually try it on, which seems like a bit of a stretch. You'd rather not be the guinea pig in the chair. So there's this idea of, to my mind, this idea of customer loyalty and customer retention and patient compliance is always about authority, is ensuring that your clients or your patients or your customers know that you're at the best. They know that you're as good as you are in your field as anybody else. Maybe I can't say you're the best, but you can certainly say that I'm as good as anybody else in the field. And certainly for local business, that's not as big an ask as it is for someone who, for say a company that's multinational or might be across every state, or in our case in Canada, across every province. But this idea of authority is very, very closely linked to AI, because you can use AI and finely tuned AI to ensure that the conversations you're having with your clients and patients just scream authority, because you're speaking their language, the client's language or the patient's language, which is the first step into being understood.
You're obviously based in Canada, and in terms of your current service, because the Canadian healthcare system is different to the US healthcare system. It's very different to the Norwegian healthcare system, where there's no marketing allowed at all, basically, of medical practices. So do you have a different offering from Canada to the US, or is there something that sort of flows nicely across the border?
It flows nicely across the border in the United States, because private practice in Canada and the United States is very similar. Of course, if you're not talking about private practice, but you're talking about government-funded practice, like we have social health care in the United States, that looks different. Here in Canada, it looks different in the United States, but private practice looks very much the same. And we have rules, just like there are in Norway, about advertising and marketing for practitioners, especially healthcare practitioners. But there's an elegant way to get around that, which is simply providing content about what it is that you actually do. You can put a YouTube video up showing what it is, say, for a chiropractor to do an adjustment, or to do post-concussion protocols in a chiropractic sense, which isn't marketing. That's just telling people what you know. That's literally just public knowledge, right? That's not the same thing as running a Facebook ad that says whatever marketing message you want to attach to that. So there's this idea that we've been talking around a bit about simply letting your potential customers or patients know that you're good at what you do. Doesn't necessarily mean you're marketing. It just means that you're giving what you know away for free. It's nothing will stop a chiropractor from or a medical doctor from speaking, for example, on weight loss, and just saying this is what weight loss looks like from a medical perspective. So I'm the CTO actually of one of the largest medical clinics in Canada. We see about 1,000 patients a day, which is where I've been talking about how we're using this customized AI to speak. To use the language that our clients actually understand, despite the fact that we have very diverse, our patients exist across a very large spectrum of education, experience, dietary needs, and all those kinds of things. Nothing stops us from having a practitioner, say an internal specialist, speak about endocrinology and how morbid obesity affects the pancreatic system, which sounds like you know what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Not that I know what I'm talking about in that regard, but it's not an advertisement.
Okay. So, I suppose building personal brands is important when it comes in the medical space as well. In the olden days, everyone knew their local doctor anyway, so that there was brand building of a sort there. Mm-hmm. Now, let's talk a bit about your. I just want to go off tangent a little bit quickly. My grandfather sailed the Cape to Rio yacht races, which are quite cool, and I think those are relatively dangerous, going across into Rio de Janeiro and to the Marian Islands, which is right next to right down the South Pole. And I've got a rock from the Marian Islands, a very nice volcanic rock. So nobody else has got one of those. So cool.
That's good.
But my father is horrifically seasick. He can't even look at the ocean and he gets sick. So I didn't do any sailing. But I thought that might be, something interesting. If you've ever been to the Marian Islands, let me know.
No, I sailed past them. I wasn't that far south. The way that once you get around the Cape Agulhas, which is the southernmost part of Africa, people think it's the Cape of Good Hope, but it's not. You got to go a little farther south to get to Cape Agulhas. That's at around 43 degrees south. So I was trying to sail I tried to stay above 40, and those islands are much farther south than that. So I wanted to come back alive. So I wasn't. I mean, you can sprint south and come back. Like you could blitz to the latitude of those islands and come back, but it would be a tall order to sail around the world at that latitude, because you will get horrifically pasted. And the storm track is basically 50 south. 60 south is a different creature. You're going to be running. I mean, you'd run into ice at 57 at the latitude of Cape Horn, which is 57. You can easily run into ice there. So once you get around Cape Horn, you very quickly scoot up to the latitude of the Falklands, which is 57, and that will get you, north enough of the storm track. But if you stayed at the latitude your uncle stayed at, I don't know, that would be it's let's just say it's not for the faint of heart. How about that?
No, that's why there are not many outposts over there. It's a bit of a nasty part of the world.
Yeah.
Now, Bert, where can I send folks to get a little bit more information about Leadbrain.ai? I suppose I've just given it there, but more about your business and to learn a little bit more about you, because we've only touched the surface of what you've
so you do. I think the simplest thing is to go to bertterhart.com. And there are links there to the different things I've done, the different things I'm planning to do, things about business and Leadbrain. So there's that one place you can go, and whatever strikes your fancy, or for whatever reason you're there, you can branch out. You can find me on LinkedIn, but that's primarily business. But there's everyone's story. There's more than just what you do for work. I think and I think that's true of everyone, not just me. I'm sure just listening to you. So you have this incredible history, this maritime history that most people don't have. Like most people, if you said, you had a relative or an uncle sail from
my grandfather.
Your grandfather, I'm sorry, from the Cape to Rio. They go, oh, how interesting. And I'm thinking he survived. He actually lived, He did
it twice, actually.
Yeah, and back in the day as well, which is saying a lot. In this day and age, most of us that are doing these things are basically dead men walking, because we have, our Gore-Tex underwear and our fancy boats and all these kinds of things. But back in the day, it was a different kettle of fish, wool and
Yeah.
oilskins and, bones in your teeth. The list goes on and on. So firstly,
Right.
I mean, my hat's off. And I'd say I'm a little bit jealous about having a rock from a faraway place. It's something that people do as soon as they go ashore. I had people come sailing with me and I go, what are you bringing back in the dinghy? It's a bag of rocks that they got, from this place. And, okay, well,
Well,
just make sure.
well, we love shiny things, and when they went to Mars and the Moon, what did they bring back? Some shiny rocks. So I
Yeah,
mean, we can't help ourselves. The last thing I wanted to ask you, because I had this question ready for you, is how on earth do you keep yourself occupied when you're alone so much? Did you cry much? Like, why the hell am I doing this? Or did you read, listen to music? I mean, what was it that entertained
that's
you as you went along?
well, that's really interesting because I brought all the important books with me. Like I'd read these books, but never cover to cover. So that's the Bible, the Old Testament, New Testament, Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire, the Quran, all the Tibetan Book of the Dead, Winston Churchill's History of the Second World War. And the only thing I read were how to fix the shit that broke.
I'm surprised with that reading, all that reading, you didn't jump over the side.
Yeah, well, no. So there was no time. Like the sailing is a 24/7 job, especially in the Southern Ocean, as you could imagine. And there was no respite. So the workload is enormous. I think that you're eating something like 7,000 calories a day and still losing weight. So it's a fantastic weight loss program. You can recommend that to someone. You sail around the world, you definitely will come back thinner. It's a little extreme. I might make more money with an extreme weight loss program. Just put everybody on the boat and sail south right until I hit some ice and then turn left.
Just call it the HMS Ozempic and you'll make a
Yeah,
fortune.
that's right. So, and people well, I shouldn't say people, but certainly for me, alone is vastly different than lonely. Those are two wildly different concepts. You can be alone but never lonely, partly because you're, well and truly occupied with the job at hand. And basically, I'm never bored. I can't remember a time in my life when I was ever bored. There's just too many interesting things to do right outside your front door. And of course, there's a world of history that we seem to just gloss over to our own detriment. And I think there's a lot to be learned there. And there's so many things to be passionate about. I mean, when I was sailing, I've always done a lot of citizen science on board the boat. When I was paddling across Canada, the same sort of things. Show me any, but I just made a conscious decision, I suppose, never to get bored.
Well, it's your mindset. And yeah, I think there's worrying about, is that dark shape a whale coming to eat me? Is it a rock that I should avoid? Or is that a storm cloud? So there's always something to keep you occupied
Yeah,
and excited.
absolutely. It's the same with, there's a lot of it's the same in business. It's the same as being an entrepreneur. It's very hard to step away and go on holidays. Like that's an important part of being successful. Otherwise, you're basically a slave of your own fashioning, which doesn't sound like I know that's not a good path forward. So at some point you have to realize you have to recharge your batteries. And when you recharge your batteries, you have to do it. I can't imagine sitting around thinking, what is it I need to do? Like what's going to occupy my time when I need to refuel the machine. So this idea as an entrepreneur or as a businessman that there's always something important to focus on, and that's probably what you should be doing. So you should never be wondering, what is it I should be doing with my time? And that goes the same with when you actually step away to indulge yourself in some sort of recreation, literally recreate. It says right in the word what you're supposed to be doing, in case you're wondering.
Yeah. You bring up a point that we should touch on, which is I hear a lot of business gurus and business coaches talking about this work-life balance. And you can have it all by working 3 days a week and having, a relaxing 4 days and automate things. How do you see that? Because I feel that the most successful people in the world that make a difference, make impact, are working 24/7. This concept of relaxation, this concept of me time, free time, you can either have a 9 to 5 and get paid to do what you're doing and have spare time, or you've got to work, like running a boat or ship or whatever you had on the ocean. It's 24/7. And you should enjoy it, and that's what you should be focusing on. The myth of a balanced life, I think, is what gets people upset, gets people, I just want to phrase this correctly, it's what depresses people or demotivates them, is that they don't have it all. It's
Yeah,
not possible.
it's a disincentive, right? This because you can't seem to find this balance, and everyone tells you it's there. Then it becomes, well, I must be doing something wrong. There's something wrong with me. I mean, the simplest way to look at it is I'm as an entrepreneur, I've never been able to say no to things that I'm passionate about. So whether that's AI, or whether it's SEO, or whether it's a small business's web footprint, whether it's getting customers engaged or patients compliant, I'm passionate about all those things. I never view it as work. Work becomes something I don't like to do. So work for me, and I've been very fortunate, and I fashioned my life along these lines, I suppose, is I do things that I enjoy, like I really, really enjoy them. So why would I want to stop it? Like the balance in life is finding those things you like to do and to do them, right? That's the whole thing between work life. Maybe you like work, but you like this other thing, surfing, just as much. So you got to try to find a way, the things you don't like to do, the things you like. That's wrong. Find the thing you like to do and then do that. And then when you end up doing that, you find out that it's not work, you enjoy it, and you don't mind spending a lot of time at it. But that doesn't say there isn't time to step away. But you can't step away for 4 days is not enough to, if you're working, like most entrepreneurs work really hard. I've never met one who, there are no shortcuts. There just aren't any. You can't work for 2 days and take off 5 and expect to get anywhere. Either,
But there are lots of books out there promising that, Bert.
sure, of course, but that's a shortcut. It doesn't work that way. I mean, you can blame Ferris for the 4-day work week, right? Right, started with him. He can tell you that didn't write for 3 days and take 4 days off to write the book. I can tell you that. I don't know any author. Like, name me one author that doesn't write continuously. They force themselves to write every single day. Every single author that that's ever produced anything other than anything that people are going to read, it's a passion, and they work really hard at it. And look at
Yeah.
Timothy Chalamet, the guy who did this movie about Bob Dylan. It took him 5 years to write, to actually get into a space where he could properly portray that character in a way that was professional enough that people actually appreciated it. He wasn't working for 3 days and taking 4 days off. It just doesn't. It sounds good. It sounds good, but it doesn't do good. Which is an interesting thing, right? Paul, we live in a world where we live in a highly polarized world where we hear things all the time that sound good and then don't do any good at all, which is the case of this. It sounds good to work for 3 days and take 4s off, but it doesn't do any good. It doesn't do any good for work, and it doesn't do any good for in terms of recreation. So,
Yeah,
I mean, if I gave you the option, okay, Bert, you're going to work. If I gave you the option, you can work for 6 months and take 6 months off, or you can work for 5 days and take the weekend off. Most people, if they step back, said, I want 6 months off. I'll work. When I work. I still have to sleep and eat and do all the other things you have to do as a normal human being. But 6 months off sounds pretty attractive as compared to a whole bunch of 2-day offs. Because what do you do in the 2 days? Because in 6 months you can actually do something. You can go somewhere. You can have a completely different experience. So I think I'm in your boat with thinking that this work-life balance revolves primarily around finding something you love to do and then do that.
Yeah, those books are business snake oil, and it's like in the olden days when the Pope would sell benefices, so you could ameliorate your sins by paying a little bit of money to or an egg, and your sins you'd spend a little bit less time in purgatory. It's exactly the same type of thing. We're looking for quick fixes for things, and there are lots of people ready to take advantage of our idleness. So I can tell you're not an idle chap, but next time we can maybe go directly into talking about some business tips, because I think it's very important that people don't get suckered into this thing of you can be an entrepreneur and it's really easy, and there are 5 tips you need to follow. It is what you said, hard work, and people don't like hearing it, and I think we should probably tell people so that we help them and make sure that they avoid this trap.
Yeah, I think if you asked anyone who has started and been successful, or at least tried, you say, would you have liked to learn it's hard work first or halfway through? I think the answer is almost invariably, I would have liked to know beforehand, because then they can decide, maybe you're prepared or maybe you're not. Like, that's an important question to ask. My father would say, you can have anything you want in the world, you just have to be willing to pay the price. And the price for this kind of thing is hard work. And if you don't want that, then that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. But it is a tremendous disservice, like you had alluded to tell people that there's 5 simple steps, and then you can retire on the beach. and when that's not true, because that only it crushes people. It crushes people, in all different ways, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and of course financially, right?
Yeah, exactly. Finally, we are going to send people to bertterhart.com. I'll put the link in the description in case my pronunciation is setting you off. Bert, it's been such a pleasure chatting to you. And if I knew anything more about boats, I would talk to you about it. But because it sounds fascinating. But
Yeah.
thank you so much for your time, and I hope some people get some good inspiration from the exciting things that you've done, and know that it takes perseverance, and you can do pretty much anything you set your heart to if you stick
Yeah.
at it long enough.
Well, I think that's a great way to close. And I would only add that if people have the courage to email me, then I'll be more than happy to reach out and email you back. So I look forward to anybody who has any commentary, whether it's positive or negative, because that's all, both ends of the spectrum are incredibly valuable. So thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. And I would love to know more about your grandfather's trips and the rock that you have. I'm jealous about the rock
Yeah.
that you've got from this crazy place.
Well, I won't tell you about my great uncle in the Zeppelin that
Okay.
landed in the Thames anyway, but that was also an interesting boating incident.
Yeah, yeah. Thus the dirigible. You mentioned dirigible earlier on, so I guess it was
Exactly.
lurking there.
Exactly. Good.
Yeah.
All right, but thank you.
I really do appreciate your comments, so why not go and watch this live on YouTube, or go to my website, kuhne.no, that's kuhne.no, for more information.